All right, what's going on? Hold on 1 second. What's the deal? Facebook. Choose what you allow. Zoom is requesting. It's not. Facebook changed some of their features. I think literally recently for some reason. I'm trying to. It's not letting me go live. They did. Choose what you allow. Okay, hold on. Yeah, probably for some reason, I should have been a little prepared. I did not know that they have changed some of their features for going live on Facebook. I don't know what they did recently.
Okay, if it doesn't work, we can just,
Yeah, well, I'm definitely recording it, and I can share that, obviously, but I don't know why. Hold on, Zoom is requesting too. Nope, I got it, guys. Sorry, hang tight. Okay. Change करते रहते हैं ना चीजें.
Same with the Zoom.
Always. Okay, Sharon Page. Okay, I'm not Alliance Organization. Okay.
All right. I was not worried. I was just worried for him because he gets so upset.
You're very calm. I am not.
Exactly. Well, you see, like when you are calm, I'm not. So I'm just like.
We're good to go, guys. Bismillah.
Okay, so we're live?
Yeah, we are. Bismillah.
Thank you for joining us for these webinars. We hope you are enjoying them as much as we are enjoying providing them to you. As you all know, May is the Mental Health Awareness Month. So we are back with Dr. Saima Hussain Ijaz. Our goal is to have autism spectrum disorder awareness series every month for the next few months. COVID-19 continues to disproportionately affect children with special needs and other disabilities, causing increased anxiety and depression. It's more important than ever that we work to end the stigma around mental health struggles. To continue our discussion, let's welcome Dr. Saima. Dr. Saima Hussain is from Ontario, Canada. She obtained her MD and MA in special education from the University of British Columbia. Dr. Saima Hussain has a medical background with residency training in pediatrics. Her son received the diagnosis of autism in the late 90s and didn't make any gains under the advice therapies, motivating her to become familiar with the available and the researched teaching methodologies for kids with developmental delays available in Canada and states to set up his home program. That led her to work first as an interventionist and then as a behavior consultant for ASD children of varying severity. She used the AAPT model that's mainly focused on developing basic learning, play, and literacy skills. Also worked on developing and implementing transition plans, positive behavior supports, and safety plans. Dr. Hussain has voluntary involvement in parent support groups, both in Pakistan and locally in British Columbia. From the early 2000s, Dr. Saima Ijaz is currently working for the Family Support Institute of British Columbia as Regional Network Coordinator for Central and North Vancouver Island. FSI is a non-profit organization that supports families of children, youth, and adults with any disability, and its services are free for all the families. Welcome, Dr. Saima.
Thank you so much, Nazia. That was a great intro. Just a little clarification, I'm in BC and not in Ontario. the diagnosis process did happen there, but then we moved to VC. So thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm just going to start my PowerPoint, and I'll be talking about the issues at hand for 35 minutes, and then I'll be ready to take your questions. So
I just made you a co-host, so you can share your screen. Yes, ma'am. There you go.
So right, so today's topic around, are you good with the screen?
Perfect.
Okay.
Yes.
So 1 second. So I always like to start with a few pictures of our family around the time when my son did get the diagnosis. This was late 1990s. And the smiles that we had lost came to surface because understanding of the sensory processing. So this is an extremely important issue that we will be discussing today. So that's him later in his teen years, and this is one of the more recent pictures. So quickly about autism and how it's surged in the last 50 years. A survey report tells us there's like been a 60% graph. What we knew in 1970s about 1 in 10,000, and even later in the textbooks that I studied, both in Pakistan and in Canada, had the same statistics, even when I was doing those readings late in the early 1990s. But the graph tells us a little, it's a little different from that. But then look at the surge, and if it's 1 in 59 a couple of years ago, then we're missing another survey report because we got too busy with the COVID. There would be even a bigger, higher number than 1 in 59. But let's just pretend that it is 1 in 59 kids, then it is a very, very significant number. And it cannot be looked at as a very rare disorder anymore. How are these kids different from a neurotypical? We can characterize that as a combination of in 4 bigger areas. So the one that takes our attention initially is usually a language difference. There's either a delay, it's both verbal or nonverbal cues, or the verbal kids, they show echolalia or pronoun errors. So there's a range, of course, with the autism spectrum disorder, it's a whole spectrum. So kids might present differently, but it is always one of the issues. Social differences, of course, whenever there's a language delay and mostly around the comprehension, the social differences are there. But for the autism spectrum, it has a more of a unique characteristics that kids don't look you in the eye, and they don't initiate the interaction, which we see is there if the child is deaf and can't hear you. Repetitive actions and the tendency to stick to a certain routine on daily basis is the third one. Over here, it's mentioned as fourth as the sensory differences. But for me, and how I'm going to explain it to you, and you'll see that too, that this is probably the most important of the 4, because these sensory differences result in the language differences, social, and the repetitive action. So all other 3 areas are pretty much because the child is processing sensory input in a different way. Because of these sensory issues, we see most of the kids, either they are having a lot of meltdowns, which seem without any apparent reason, or they could be a spaced out kid. So those are two very concerning outlooks that we see in little kids. And if I can explain it in very, very simple words, it's like the kid is saying, I hear things more than you do. I see things from a different angle. I smell things more than you do. I feel things that you don't. And I taste things differently. Now, this is a very, very simple way of putting it, but just imagine these are the 5 senses that help us connect with our environment, connect us with the caregiver, and it stimulates the mind and initiates our learning process. So if we're looking at these senses in a totally different way, then it'll make you understand why this child is so confused, is not learning, although he has great potentials. So this is probably the most commonly noticed one, and almost everyone indicates that they are affected at some level. So the sound sensitivities. The first, I'll tell you about the background sounds that are magnified enough that the voices become muffled. So what are these background sounds? It could be the indoor ones and the outdoor ones, like the wind blowing, rain, traffic sounds, any sounds coming from the neighborhood. And the indoor are all the devices that could be running, a TV, some songs playing, how we talk to the kids. All those sounds, they are, and they are there for us too, but we learn to not take those are not the prominent feature in our mind, but they are for these kids. They can also hear sounds from a distance. This is something I noticed first time with my own son when he was 4, and his elder brother had joined the school at that point. And while the school bus who was going to drop him off would still be a block away, this kid would know, and he'll run towards the door with stimming and excited face. And it took me a while to understand that he could actually hear that bus stop, making its stops for the kids to be dropped off. So that's how far they can actually pick some sounds. Inability to cut the background noises, leading to difficulty concentrating. So of course, when these sounds are so high, then what's happening right in front, like if you're calling the child, asking him to do something, just naming something, they are not tuned into that. Now, there is a chance that this child can have impaired hearing in one or both ears, but because they could be concurrent deafness, sometimes that's taken into considerations, and an audiologist can rule that out. But in majority of the cases, that's not what it is. It's just the child is not tuning it. So how I'm going to also do is first try to help you understand what each sense is, how it's working for them, and then how we can help, and some visual tools that you could use to help the child. So the outdoor sounds, you just close the doors, windows, devices, turn them to a low volume. Also understanding that if the child is not responding to you, increasing your sound volume is not going to be helpful. It's more practical to use low volumes and soft tones, and try to adapt, like ask all your family members to talk that way. We really need to encourage this child, help connect to pleasant sounds, so he doesn't continue, his brain doesn't automatically cutting off the sounds, because he takes what's already there as unpleasant. So what's that going to look like? I'll just tell you in a minute. What some of the strategies being used are auditory discrimination and integration. And we also desensitization. They might look as big words, but it's really simple and can be worked out into a daily routine. While communicating to the child, instead of using long sentences or asking questions, use phrases or short sentences. I recommend using a combination of noun and verb, like go to park, let's eat. So eat, you can be specific, eat an apple. So just make your instructions short. And then it's a good idea to introduce a visual way of communication like PECs or any of the ACCs with a simple communication app on that. I recommend a simpler one, and I will tell you more about it in one of the later discussions. So sound canceling headphones and use of white noise is also recommended. So the music, at one point you might think that I'm saying turn down the devices, and now I'm talking about music. So this music starts with very, very basic. It's also part of auditory integration, where it could be just a violin playing, just an instrument, and just adding, getting the child comfortable to one sound and then adding more. And it's usually a slow rhythmic music. Beat of drum is very, very relaxing. Songs, again, I think about the lullabies. Those were slow songs. So this kid is who's tuning out the sounds is not going to like loud music or fast music and fast songs. So it'll be slow songs. To my surprise, my child tuned into, and I would see him rocking and enjoying when there was like the Sufi songs, Nusrat Fateh Ali. And then later, much, much later, I figured out that it was the rhythm and it was the tabla beat. And that became a big part of the discussions later, that kids like the tabla beat. They also like for the letter, the alphabet and the number songs, because they are visual and they can connect that, the word to a visual aspect there. The other sound that I like, the songs that I like are the ones that have subtitles with it, and they are teaching them a simple routine, like this is the way we brush your teeth. These then lead into the songs that are we play for our other kids when they were young. So we are slowly integrating them into more with a more directional, in a directional way, and initiating their learning. So noun and sounds was the program that I used for auditory discrimination for my son, but that was late 1990s. It's an expensive one. What it does is a picture and a sound, and the kid learns to match. So it starts with 2, then builds to 3, 4, 5. You can set it up. Now, 20, 25 years later, we have amazing number of apps available, like a Sound Touch. It's just $6, $6.99 compared to $100 nouns and sounds that I got. And even easier is that you can record simple home sounds and take a picture, and you can create your own little library. Another app is White Noise. It has similar pictures, the sounds in there. It also provides that background noise that sometimes our kids want to be playing because it muffles the other background sounds. So this is like kids like sometimes a fan in the background because it'll muffle down the sound of the freezer. Some sounds that we can't even, our ears don't even appreciate. So, and it has a similar effect than using a headphone with the canceling feature, noise canceling feature. The second big sense, and it is a great asset, how they process it, but we mostly see that kids don't make an eye contact. But some of the other things that they might be doing is they flick their fingers to stimulate. They sometimes position it like they are narrowing down their visual field. A lot of kids, you can see them playing with their fingers in front of the face. That's what they're trying to do. Sometimes they look at something and then it's like they're walking past it and then grab it while it looks like they're looking in front. That's because they start using the peripheral vision. So they use it more and more, especially when they are checking out a new person or in a new place. So while we do that, what happens is that we get a 2D vision. If you try to look, just imagine you checking what's on the side. So because two eyes are not aligned, you don't get the 3D vision. And so it doesn't help them. So the same person, if they see at different times using the peripheral vision, they don't still connect to the person. Because we get that because we look centrally, we get that 3D vision and it gets imprinted in the brain. That's one of the reasons their learning is affected. So some are, of course, who've been overwhelmed. They seem spaced out, unfocused, and not looking at anything. If we, let me go back. So the peripheral vision, when they use more and more, they start avoiding the central vision. And what that causes it is, as a lot of the kids are also hyperactive, they're running around and you can see them bumping into things right in front, and it seems they can't see that. Right. So we really need to help improve their central vision. Some of the kids, they later, you can even have a word included to the diagnosis saying central cortical blindness, which is pretty much because they have not been using it to the extent that it seems they can't see anything at all in front. So introducing lights and motions like a lava lamp or a glitter lamp lets them look straight up, using flashlights in a dark room. So it doesn't mean that we use it all the time. Just, you know, if we can target one connection every hour for a few seconds even, and then once the child has done that, then introduce it at other times, and then we leave it there for them. So it's not going to take a lot of your time to do that. Flashlights in a dark room, kids love it, like the cats love it. If you know how we like playing with them, you throw the light or the laser light or a flashlight, and you can get them moving. The kids' eyes central move with it when you do that. Blowing bubbles for catching and popping, I still have to find a kid who doesn't like to play with bubbles. And that's because, you know, they show that diffusion of colors, and they don't make noise. They're just floating around, and kids. So that's all of these little things will improve the central vision. Then if the child is working with SLP or OT and you're doing some learning activities, or you can initiate this yourself, like looking in the mirror, pointing and naming. You can say mama, ami, point yourself, point to him and name him, help him point to himself and you while naming. and then pointing to body parts and naming and emotions, making different faces. And so simple toolkit that you need to do these activities. Most of the time we have that, or they are so inexpensive items. And also talk about introducing some first word cards with a single picture on each page and a label. So that's pretty much that you need to initiate them, just improve on their visual skills. Sensitive to light touch is gentle touch can feel uncomfortable or even painful. Just give a minute to imagine how would you feel if that was like your whole body. What are the things you feel? It's the clothes you're wearing and someone touching you. So it's not you touching, it could be anything that's touching. That could almost feel like painful. So how distressing that could be for the child. So what this child does is that he's not seen to be reaching out to new things or items like a neurotypical. He might be crying when you're trying to brush and wash his hair because the head is sensitive to the touch. Even as grown-ups, some of them have trouble brushing teeth. They're very picky eaters because they are 3 senses and they're all disordered, then not the same as we feel or smell or taste. So they have eating issues, they gag and spit out or throw up. It's difficult to dress them up sometimes. You have to, there's no cooperation there. Some kids might take off their clothes as you put them on. Dislike having anything or hand or feet like mittens, socks, shoes. That's a struggle dressing them up. And you see the toe walking. So how can we help? First, instead of the gentle touch, provide them with firm touch. So that's a change, a simple change, but we have to remind ourselves and be intentional about it because that's felt as pressure and that's pleasing and pleasant for the child. And the other is desensitization because we need to introduce the simple hygiene routines and get them used to it. So, how do we do that? But first, if the child is not eating at all, try switching the texture of the food to crispy and dry. So those are overall better tolerated. Head, foot, and shoulder massages are pleasing. Remember, it's firm touch and not gentle. Introduce different textures around the person's mouth. And it could be, you'll have to just try for a few seconds and then cue in whether the child is going to like it or not. Whether he likes it or not, you always say, good trying. So always the positive reinforcement. A vibrating toothbrush is usually accepted better so than the mechanical one. Again, introduce different textures for touch, have a box full of different type of cloths or blocks or bristle blocks, and I'll show you some visuals right now available. So again, like the other things, like I said, you just have to introduce just for a little bit and make your own notes, what seems to be pleasant. And once he likes it, then it's not, he's gonna reach out for it on his own too. Removing tags and allowing the child to wear clothes he's more comfortable with. Pre-washing new clothes to take out the crispiness sometimes help. So you know how we leave new clothes for an occasion, and then we wonder why the child is crying when we're taking him out all dressed up. So that could be the reason. Different choices of washcloths if he enjoys a bubble bath, and then introducing those or loafers and what is he going to tolerate on his body. Again, very, very gentle introduction. So these type of things, if you can have around, start with a simple Play-Doh or thinking putty and some switches and the push buttons, fidgets of different types. You don't have to go out and get a bunch of stuff. Just start with a few things. Look what you have in your house first and just put that in the basket so it's readily available for use. Now what I'm going to introduce are, and we did talk about deep pressure already, so these are the relaxing and calming senses that are not included in our 5 main senses. So deep pressure instead of the gentle touch, vestibular, which is the movement sense, and proprioceptive is the body, positioning of the body, how your joints move. So might seem like big words, but this is nothing new. You're very familiar. One thing that worked like magic for our kid is, it's a double tight vest underneath all the clothing. It provides deep pressure and it was protective layer against the clothes. So by that, what I mean is that if your child is size 8, I've forgotten what sizes kids were, and mine are grown for a while now, but just buy something a size or 2 smaller. So it's tight and snug against the body. Weighted blankets or sleeping bags, they sometimes help improve the sleep because kid is relaxed. Kids who are hyperactive running around the house, position the furniture to make it, don't ask them to stop running around. Let them do that, just make room for them to make it easy so they're not bumping into things. Place color tape, it's a visual indicator. Make pads, which way to go. Use the, I need to hurry up now. Use the armlets rule to teach them about the personal space. So the earlier we teach them, the better it is. So they know that they have to steer away from the things and from the people. And so arm length, because these are visual indicators, kids get it easier. So deep pressure, a simple way, getting the kid to sit on your lap, put your arms around, provides them with good deep pressure. Wrapping them up in a blanket, asking them to roll on the blanket on the floor. And this is a squeeze machine, which was made based on the idea of Temple Grandin. And this also provides a relaxation when the kid is in that unstable stage. This is what the vestibular and proprioceptive looks like. So a rocking chair, a swing that you can put a bar in a doorway and set it indoor, a gym ball, teaching them how to ride a tricycle or having a trampoline with a stand to hold on to, will provide them with enough activity which will balance out their day. This kid would not be running around everywhere because you're giving him those outlets over the day. And this will tie into our session where we'll talk about learning. But once the child is okay with touching and feeling things and the blocks and how we can lead it directly into kinesthetic learning, colored beads, teddy bears, teaching him hand over hand, how to put them into different, group them differently. Eye-hand coordination can be built, again, hand over hand, building blocks or fit-in blocks. And so we'll cover that later on. So just a little bit about sensory diet that you might have heard over and over. It was coined by an OT, and it's a personalized activity plan provides sensory input to it's individualized for each person, and it keeps them focused and organized throughout the day. So the child, if he's going through those activities, he'll tolerate sensations and situations that are challenging better. He'll regulate emotions, he'll stay alert, and it'll increase the attention span, reduce unwanted sensory seeking and sensory avoiding behaviors, handles transition with less stress. And quickly, a sample sensory diet that I used for my kid, that was when he was young. So morning deep pressure on feet and back to help wake him instead of calling out his name or slightly touching him. Music, so if his child has learned, is it music that he likes? Is it songs? Is it white noise? So you pick that for him in the morning, give him a vibrating or electric toothbrush. What sort of breakfast would be more healthy for him, easy, digestible, spin or swivel on a chair. And if he seems like he needs to burn out some energy, just give him 5 minutes on a trampoline or a tricycle. And in evening, always introduce 30 minutes, and all these activities, most of those could be done in that 30 minutes time. So play equipment using spinning or swinging, mini trampolines, gym ball. You could play a music if he needs to numb those sounds in the background, or if he's happy, then you don't need to think of that. And kids just love sand play, filling and dumping and digging in the sand. I introduced the night one before I went to the evening. So warm bath with bubbles, again, to give 30 minutes time, give them plenty of time to play and relax, then listening to calming music, and or if the child prefers aromatherapy over that, deep pressure hugs and weighted blanket. And at dinner time, like if the child's not eating, then think about crunchy and chewy food. And I always try to gear them into doing, modeling them what things need to be done, and introducing some chores, while of course you are there to model and help them. So there, I'm open to any question answers that you may have.
Najib Bhabhi, you're on mute.
Sorry. Ji, Assalamu alaikum. I have a few questions. The first question is, will my child outgrow these sensory issues?
Well, I'm going to show you a couple of slides where I can tell you, this is, just look at that. This is how their senses work. Our senses are going to work for us throughout the life. So instead of thinking of it as an issue, think of the way how they're processing the sensory information. So it changes over time. But of course, if we can process any sensory input, then we'll stop existing. So let's think of it that way, how the kids present, an individual present at different ages. So as a baby, while he might feel limp or rigid, doesn't like to be cuddled, has peculiar eating and sleeping, very fussy, can't self-calm, constantly reaching to people that he knows, and like it's like getting into the space, and excessive mouthing. So Pica puts everything and that he can reach into his mouth. A preschooler would be difficult to dress and put on shoes, constantly move around, has frequent temper tantrums, oversensitive to noise, lights, and smells, feels playground and malls overwhelming. So although those that's how the baby felt too. But as a preschooler, he is going to cover his ears or go away or hide himself sometimes. So you can see that what's affecting, it's the noise, light, and smells. So it's sometimes what the child is doing, but also how you are perceiving. As a baby, we sometimes think, oh, that's how babies are. We do feel, look at some, like it's different, he's fussy. But it's so hard for the child to show what's bothering him and for us. So it's actually both what our response is to. So grade schoolers they play a little rough with others more than the others, appear awkward in social settings, has trouble with fine motor, so writing, of course, so OTs come in, they do their things, special eds steps in, they have a hard time with transitions. Mid-schoolers, afraid of trying new things, sometimes they act impulsively, doesn't finish the task easily, is mostly distracted and fidgety, struggles to understand personal space, has trouble playing sports. Now, of course, all this will also differ at what level of interventions were done and how we have helped the child develop some coping skills using the same sensory processing. High schoolers, because they can now feel that their peers have different level of socializing than them, they can feel serious and sometimes depressed. They're still resistant to try new things, trouble staying focused, have difficulty understanding the personal space, and might want to self-isolate. So, and at each and every stage, we can help them develop coping skills and to some level understand why you're feeling that way and what you can do about that, which can bring a big change in all of them. I hope that.
Yes, thank you very much. There is another question about the sensory profile and sensory diet, but I see that you've already explained that in detail. Do you want to still talk about that a little bit, or?
I can show you sensory profile, how parents can. I'll just have to stop sharing and just reach out. There was a form that maybe can be it can be shared with the parents later if possible.
Yeah, we can put it on our website.
Okay. So it is to be used not professionally, but parents can definitely go and take a look, and they can look how things have been explained. They just have to read everything and click at if the child avoids that, he seeks it. It is a mixed reaction. Some days he'll avoid, some days he'll seek, or he's pretty much the same as another kid. So if you check those boxes out, it'll give you an idea of the profile that this child has. So and you can roughly put together a sensory diet yourself by giving them what the child is seeking, not hiding it, but find the directions of learning within that. And what the child avoids, and it's really important for them to be part of their daily life, then how we desensitize those things. So he's not totally avoiding it and gradually learns to make a use of that.
Thank you. There's a question from a bunch of them. I can't afford an occupational therapist. What can I do?
Well, it's the answer is embedded in few of the slides there. Go check out that form about the sensory checklist. Figure out what works for your child, what doesn't. Based on that, and based on the sample diet that I sort of explained to you guys, put different pieces together of what is going to work, also based on your daily schedule. It doesn't have to be, it's like this that I have to do. See what the child likes, provide them in different times of the day, and what he totally avoids and is needed. We do the desensitization, so they able to accept it when it's required.
Okay, thank you. One last question. My son becomes disruptive when we visit others. It's embarrassing, and why does he do it?
Well, it's a new place, it's new people, it might be new clothes. Think about the sensory inputs. In his own home, he might have desensitized to the sounds of people he's living with, sounds of the home, sounds of the neighborhood, because he's been listening to that. In a new place, it's a totally new setup. It's new set of sounds. Usually there are more than few people around, so it's crowded. Everyone's talking. He doesn't know what he's supposed to do. It's hard for him to, he's been told to sit still. So he's overwhelmed. So, I'll say just introduce it. The socialization is a big thing. We want the child to be able to do that, but pick your battles slowly. Take it to someone's house when it's just you and them, and not a whole big setup. Builds on that. Let everyone know that you're, if there's a quiet place that your child can go to. So, always share what can happen. It's better that way. If there's a quiet room, you can take him there, calm him down, bring it back. And if it gets, it's repeated, I'll request that please, cut that visit short. It's too hard for the child. They don't intentionally put on behaviors. It's a lot going on that they cannot tolerate. So it's better not to put the child through it.
Thank you very much. I don't see any more questions. If somebody has, I don't see any other questions. Dr. Sama, is there something else that you want to share with us before we end this session?
I think I've said my say about I hope what I explained was easy, and I didn't use too many technical words in there. If in the audience, if something's not clear or you'd like me to go back, and I'll request them to do that. Otherwise, I think we're done. But
Dr. Sama, may I ask you, please? Huh?
Gigi, please.
Thank you very much. This is for the first time that I'm learning from a learned person like you and going into the details. So 1 in 59 is a big number. So if I may ask you, what as a profession we are doing to find out as to why this number has grown over the years? What as society we can do? And this presentation of yours, is it for the parents or for the profession?
Well, that's a threefold question. And it's a great one. I liked all three. What's happening with the numbers there? A lot what's happening is, first there was a term autism used. So very severe form, and we talked about 1 in 10,000. Now the term has shifted from autism to autism spectrum disorder, which also includes what we before had as PDD, pervasive developmental disorder, and Asperger's. So the high functioning and autism was restricted with the ones that can't be taught. They have very huge behaviors. Majority has epileptic. So that's what autism was. Autism spectrum is a whole range with high functioning, middle functioning, and low functioning. So overall, we have encompassed the spectrum now. That's one reason why the numbers are high. Secondly, the diagnostic system has improved because it was thought that the ones who have autism are a part of the society that have to be hidden away. Can't teach them. They are just, just put them aside. Don't look at them. Don't tell the society they are. So now it's shifted now is let's diagnose them early. What are the signs? Let's provide them the early intervention and get them integrated into help them become a part of the society. So that's the whole mindset of just changed from 1970, 80, when the term autism came into existence to now. And third, yes, actually number are increasing too. And if you look at the high functioning and where they're reaching, where their PhDs and the doctorates and they're helping and making inventions, they talk about it's the way the brain is evolving. They're more visual thinkers. They can construct things better. They're more and more media awareness about that. And they're the ones who are standing up with the ones who have low functioning, saying, they can do it too. You didn't get us, you're not getting them. So this whole movement about that too. So, overall number is increasing, we're diagnosing it better, and we have it in a bigger, like all three grouped together now, instead of just talking about autism. Your second question was, I forgot.
What we are doing
Yeah. Well, the more we understand and talk to others and educate them, we have to awaken that awareness and understanding. And even for parents to know that this child is not behaving because he's a bad kid. He wants to just do that. There are reasons behind it. It brings out the empathetic side, a sympathetic side, for us to learn and help him instead of thinking him as that bad kid who's just doing all that. And your third was, I remember, is it for the parents or for the care, for the professionals? So I think it's for both, because there is lack of understanding. For parents, as my heart goes out to them, some therapies are expensive, some can't afford it. Sometimes you can't find the right professional because of your location. So I always encourage the families to, if they understand the basic steps, they can help the child so much. And they can actually take that information into the school and tell them too that this is working. So I think it's for both.
Okay. Nazia, may I ask another question, please? Huh?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Ji, Dr. Sabha, here in Karachi, we are trying to work with differently abled persons, and the motive is to improve their life quality, one, and two is to make them financially self-reliant. So please share with us, me, as to how you or the medical profession has helped these kids with autism or autism spectrum to really grow into taking this responsibility as being financially responsible, raise families, some success stories, if you may touch here, but then maybe later we can request you to share those with us.
Yes, definitely. Well, there are lots of them if you're looking at the high functioning. Unfortunately, for the low functioning, and I don't like to say this word, but this is how it's acknowledged at this point, is a lot depends at what stage they get diagnosed and the interventions, and if it is the right ones or not. If we get stuck into providing them with the same environment, they're not going to learn much. But adapting that environment, my own son falls into this bracket. He's still nonverbal, but he can type to communicate. And that has made such a huge difference for him and for us. That simple thing that we take for granted to be able to communicate. Now, the middle part of the spectrum, with over here, many have been directed not just to communicate, but building life skills and community-oriented programs, plus college, certain types of degrees that they can actually work for and can hold down jobs. This usually start with supporting them through it. So it's because it's a huge step. Even when introducing them to a crowded or going for a social gathering, how you have to break it down into steps and what do you do first? How do you build on that? Same way, career trainings are being held over here. So I'm part of a parent organization that helps families. So that's how we support families and give them this direction. I love to have something like that happening in Pakistan. Parents have, they have a great motivation to learn for their own kid. And then because they have all that learned experience to share it with others and help them. So such a society could provide that money-less force for what you're looking for. They can provide. So, and then, ideas behind it, and that guidance, if I can be a part of that, I love to be. And then there are resources, bunch of those, and I can also help you connect with those.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saima. Looking forward to our next session soon. I'm sure our members found all the information and extremely helpful. And I'm sure they'll be using it. And see you soon then. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity for me to come and talk about these issues.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next month.
Love.
Lafis.